Our dear candidates, let me welcome you for this lesson. I would like to thank you because you're coping up with the mode of learning that we have in this lockdown. I know it's quite difficult for some of us, but let us make sure that we press on and we get used to the mode of learning that we are undergoing right now. Secondly, I would like to say, in case you have not understood anything, the numbers, my numbers are down there right on the screen with you. You can WhatsApp me via those numbers, and I help you on some of the parts that you have not understood properly. Or if there is any question that that has defeated you, you can WhatsApp me on those numbers, and I'll help you to answer those questions. I'll guide you on how to answer the questions and other parts that you need help in. Now, we have been looking at inclined planes as our second group of simple machines. We looked at the definition of the term inclined planes, and we said it's a slanting surface that joins a lower level to a higher level. We also went ahead and we looked at the examples of inclined planes. Besides the examples, we also looked at how to work out or calculate the mechanical advantage of an inclined plane. This time, I would like us to start still on inclined plane before we go to look at the third group of simple machines. Let us look at the advantages of this of inclined planes. Before we look at the advantages, I think, let us go back and remind ourselves. What are some of the examples of inclined planes? We talk about the ladder. We talked about the plank of wood. We talked about a winding rod. And we also talked about the staircases. Now, when we are giving the advantages or uses of inclined planes, we shall give each use according to the examples we have given. If we talked about a ladder, how useful is a ladder? What is the use of a ladder to people at home, to the community? Secondly, when we talk about a plank of wood, from our diagram that we drew last time, what is the use of a plank of wood? How useful is a plank of wood? What I'm saying here is, when you're giving the uses of inclined planes, please be specific. If you're talking about a plank of wood, say a plank of wood is used to load objects on trucks. It is used to load objects on trucks. A plank of wood is used to load objects on trucks. When you're talking about a ladder, say a ladder is used to climb on buildings, trees, electric poles. Please be straight when you're giving these answers. Avoid the use of they are. Because when they say give any one use of inclined planes and you say they are, you have generalized all. We have looked at the plank of wood, which is used to load heavy objects on trucks. Then we have looked at the staircases that are used by people to climb on the upper floors of the buildings. Now, these two, they have different uses. When you use that phrase, they are used, it means a plank of wood has the same use as a staircase. It has the same use as a winding rod, which is not true. That's why I'm saying, let us be specific if you're giving the uses of inclined planes. Even if possible, you name it. Like you can say, a winding rod is used to climb mountains using vehicles. So you can name a certain group of a certain type, example of an inclined plane when you're giving the use. So we have some of the uses of inclined planes here. The first one, we are saying a plank of wood is used to load heavy objects in trucks. That is the first use of inclined planes. A plank of wood is used to load heavy objects on trucks, or you can talk about lorries. The second use of the inclined plane is that a winding road helps vehicles to climb mountains. When vehicles are climbing mountains, most especially on mountainous areas where we find the towns on top of the mountain up, these vehicles, they use a winding road because a driver you cannot drive straight up forward into the mountain, but you need a winding road at least for you to reach there. Then the staircases are used to climb on higher floors of buildings. When you're climbing on higher floors of buildings, we use staircases. Even in schools, we use staircases. Then a ladder is used to climb buildings, electric poles, and trees. When you want to climb buildings, you can use a ladder. You can put it on a wall. Then you use that ladder to climb on the roof of a building. So these are some of the uses or advantages of inclined planes. Now, from that brings us to the end of the second group of simple machines. The first group we looked at were levers. The second group that we looked at were the inclined planes or slopes. Now, the third group that we are looking at is what we call the wedges. We want to look at wedges in details. What do we understand by the term a wedge? What is a wedge? A simple definition of the term a wedge is a simple machine. A wedge is a simple machine with a narrow point which gets gradually wider. I repeat this. A wedge is a simple machine with a narrow point which gets gradually wider. It has a narrow point. One point is narrow. One point is sharp, but it gets gradually wider. I repeat this definition. A wedge is a simple machine with a narrow point which gets gradually wider. That is what we mean by the term a wedge. Wedges are normally used for piercing. Wedges can be used for cutting. Those are some of the uses of wedges. When you're talking about objects with the sharp points which get gradually wider, those are some of the uses of these objects. Now, this group of simple machines, we are having here a diagram that is illustrating what we are meaning by the word a wedge. A simple machine with a sharp point, a sharp end, which gets gradually wider. There is one point that is sharp, and from that sharp point, it enlarges, it gets gradually wider, as we are seeing from this. Now, these wedges can also be called double inclined planes. They can also be called double inclined plane. Why are they called double inclined plane? Because they have two slanting surfaces that forms a narrow point. They are called the double inclined plane because they have two slanting surfaces that forms a narrow point. That's why they are called the double inclined plane. So if someone can use the word double inclined plane, that person is also correct to mean wedges. Examples of wedges here, to go very fast, we have an axe that we always use at home. We have a knife that all of us know. We have a razor blade, nails. We have a spear. Then we have needles, sewing needles. Then we have the panga. We have wooden wedge, a bullet, then a hoe. These are some of the examples of wedges that we normally use at home. Now, this one here, a wooden wedge, is normally used when splitting firewood. When you're splitting wood, the first point where you hit with an axe, you can get a wooden wedge and you fix it in that point to make sure that that opening remains when it is not closed. That is what we call a wooden wedge. It is used in splitting firewood, a wooden wedge. Now, we look at the uses of wedges. What are the importance of wedges at home? One, As I mentioned when we were talking about the inclined planes, I said when you're giving the importance or the uses of these machines, especially the inclined planes and the wedges, make sure you name a machine that you're talking about. If you're talking about the importance of a wedge, which wedge are you talking about especially? Because we look at an example of a wedge like a hoe that is used for digging. It is a hoe that is used for digging. Not all of the wedges are used for digging, only a hoe. Therefore, when you use the phrase, they are, that phrase qualifies your answer to be marked wrong, because not all the wedges are used for digging. So therefore, when you're asked to give the importance or the uses of a wedge, make sure you name a wedge and state its use. For example, we are looking at a hoe, and we shall say a hoe is used for digging. That one, a person who is marking will be specific, will say, okay, a hoe, this one is a wedge, it is used for digging. Then we also look at another example of a wedge, like a knife. A knife is used for peeling, a knife is used for cutting. So you are specific on a certain example of a wedge and other examples. So the main point here, the importance or uses of wedges, we get them from the examples. When you look at the examples of wedges, for example, an axe. What is the use of an axe? That is one of the uses of wedges. Talk about a knife. How useful is a knife at home? That one gives you the uses of wedges. A razor blade. What is the use of a razor blade? The nails. I'm talking about these iron nails that are used for fixing. They are used to fix timbers or objects together. When you want to join a timber to another one, you use a nail and you fix them. So you give that one as a use of a wedge, but being specific. Nails are used to join objects together. Nails are used to join objects. A spear, this one is used for hunting. A spear is used in hunting. Protection. Some people use spears for protection at home. Yes, we know others, they use guns, but there are those people who cannot afford to get guns. So other communities, they use spears for protection. We have needle. For example, we are going to talk about a sewing needle, which is used for sewing clothes. We have a panga, which is used to cut small trees. A panga is used to cut small trees. A panga is not used for peeling, please. Though some people use it in form of a knife, but it is not its use. So a panga is used for cutting small trees. A wooden wedge is used in splitting firewood. Then we have a bullet that can be used for protection. A bullet can also be used for defense. That is defense, protection, okay? Then we have a hoe that we started with that is used for digging. Those are some of the uses or the importance of wedges in our community. We come here and we have a simple exercise here that I have given to you. The number one is saying, draw the following wedges. The first one is a spear. Because when I talk about a spear, I know some people have never seen a spear. So please, I'm going to check whether you have done that work. You will show me the spear that you have drawn when we come back to school. Then we have a panga. A panga, we have them at homes. I know this one is going to be very simple for everyone. Question number 2 is saying, why is a wedge called a double inclined plane? Why is a wedge called a double inclined plane? That answer, I gave it when I was explaining. Then number 3, what is an inclined plane? What do you understand by the term an inclined plane? I would like to thank you so much. Let me take this opportunity to wish you the best of your time. Bye-bye.